Yorda, and welcome to another video in the series aimed at teaching you how to play Riftbound step by step, hopefully getting you ready for your first Nexus night. Today we're going to be playing another game of Spin the Wheel. I have already loaded up the game up into their first hand, and we can see that it's going to be a game of Jayce with the deck named Jayce Gearslop adequately. This is, Gearslop Jayce, I should correctly say, and this is a deck by Senntis, which will be linked down below. And then on the other side, we have a deck called Nasus, adequately called, because they're playing Nasus, and this is a deck made by Thanoslake. I will, of course, link both of these below. And I have loaded into the first mulligan stage. We didn't actually have to mulligan anything. I don't really know what these decks want to do, because by name the Nasus is just Nasus, and by name the Jayce wants to do gear, but his legend ability already wants him to do gear anyway. There are 3 new cards for us to look at, 2 on the Jayce side and 1 on the Nasus. On the Jayce side we have a 3 energy, 3 might body unit that's called Repair Specialist, and has the ability I have Assault equal to the number of gear you control. Pretty fun. And the new gear that we see here is a 3 energy gear called Plateworm Egg. This enters exhausted, and it can be empowered for 1 energy and exhausting it. It has the ability of Exhaust Me at reaction speed to add 1 energy, but if it's empowered, add 2 energy. Because of the way add works, this is actually something you cannot respond to as an opponent, so if they decide to tap the Plateworm Egg, you cannot react to it in any way. Over on the Nasus' side, their new chosen champion is the blue Nasus, Nasus Guardian of Knowledge, which has once each turn, when an enemy unit dies, channel 1 root exhausted, so it's a bit more of a ramp style, which is kind of cool. Now, without further ado, the Jayce decided to go first, and we'll be tapping 2 to play out the Plundering Poro. Nothing really needs to be said about that. It's a very basic turn. Their battlefields are the Windswept Hillock from the Nasus, which allows units here to have ganking, and on the Jayce side, Orn's Forge. While you control this battlefield, the first friendly non-token gear played each turn costs 1 energy less, so pretty in line with what they're after. As for the Nasus, they're going to bring out the Lonely Poro and pass. It is now the Jayce's turn. They're going to move their Plundering Poro over to this battlefield. There is nothing the Jayce can really do about that, and as such the Plundering Poro will conquer. And then for 2 energy, the Plateworm Egg will come out. It's 2 because it's usually 3, but the Orn's Forge reduces it by 1. And then for their 2 remaining, I guess you could say, energy. Yeah, we'll do it. So we'll tap the pay 1 energy in order to exhaust the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow to ready a gear. We'll be readying the Plateworm Egg, and we will be exhausting it and paying the last energy in order to... we will be empowering it by exhausting it and paying 1 energy in order to empower it. And with that, we shall pass. All we need to worry about there is, because this comes in exhausted, we paid 1 energy to play the use the ability of the Jayce Legend, and that way we've essentially increased the availability of energy next turn. While it would have been handy to have the required power for smoke, or the energy and power for Smokescreen this turn, it is not that crucial because there is nothing major currently on the board of the Jayce, and as such now the Plateworm Egg will effectively be the missing power from this turn moving forward. Onto the Nasus' side, they'll be moving their Lonely Poro over to the Windswept Hillock. The reason they're not moving into the Plundering Poro is because while it would be a trade, there's not much more reason besides trading to do that. As such, what they will be doing is they will be, for 5, recycle 1, bringing their Nasus Guardian of Knowledge chosen champion into the battlefield. It's a 5, not a 7, so technically the Curator of Sands does not trigger, unfortunately. I say technically, it is how it is. On the Jayce's side, the new card is Orb of Regret. It's an Origins card. It's a 1 energy gear that says Exhaust Me, give a unit -1 this turn to a minimum of 1. It's essentially a gear Stupefy without the draw. Very powerful in some ways, and we will see for 1 energy that come out ready. Then the next thing we will see is currently there is 5 energy, but 2 extra from here, so they have access to 7. For 3, they'll be playing out Repair Specialist, which is a 3 energy currently, but the access to 3 gear at the moment, because it doesn't specify that it has to be non-token, so the gold does count. This has Assault 3. And for the Plate Worm Egg and 2 more runes, we'll be playing out Jayce Man of Progress, which has the ability when you play me, you may kill a friendly gear. If you do, you may play a gear with an energy cost of 7 or no more. Why are we playing this now? It's because I think we just kind of want the extra unit out, and that's a nice way of getting it out now. I'm sure that this deck in particular may have some very expensive gear, but I also can imagine that currently having a 4 energy, a 4 might unit ready for next turn will be quite nice. Obviously the Jayce will go up to 2 points for the Plundering Porrow, and technically the Orb of Regret should have cost 1 less this turn. I kind of forgot that trigger, but it's too late. But we will move the Plundering Porrow back to base and pass. It is now the Nasus's turn. They score 1 for the Lonely Porrow. They will move with Windswept Hillock over to the Orn's Forge, scoring to 3. Their drawn cards have been Nasus Ascended, which is the much preferred Nasus in so many ways. 8 energy, 1 power, 8 might that has Deflect 2 by base, and an Empower 8, and when he is empowered you score an additional point when he conquers. So he becomes a very, very threatening unit later on. And we've also seen Siphoning Strike come out, which is a 4 energy signature spell that says deal 4 to a unit at a battlefield. However, if you control 7 or more runes, deal 7 damage to it instead. When it dies, regardless of how many runes you have, channel 1 rune exhausted. But the unit must die that turn that you play it. So it's a very interesting one. We will now see for 2 runes a Scuttle Crab played out to the base. And the Scuttle Crab says when you play me, draw 1, and we draw into On Guard, which will be very nice. And with 4 runes remaining, we have access to On Guard and Stupefy, and maybe any card that Stupefy does draw us. Siphoning Strike is a non-action or reaction card, which, in my opinion, I believe it should have been an action card, but I can understand the power that 7 damage really does limit it to a slow speed card instead. But my opinions of Siphoning Strike are founded in the fact that I have not played with it much, and my time with it has felt a bit more lackluster because I haven't seen it that often. So at this moment, very biased, but well-founded. Anyway, we will now pass over back to the Jayce, who is drawn into Tools of Empire. And the first thing we'll see is the Repair Specialist. Oh, actually, the Repair Specialist currently is a 3 Might, 3 Assault unit, so it can go up to 6. The Orb of Regret means that this can be reduced down to 1, which means that with 4, the worst case scenario for us is they have access to a smokescreen. As we can see here, that is what the Jayce has. So that is the initial thought that they may have. They'll also have access to On Guards, Disciplines, and Stupefies. What is the worst combination for us? Well, it would most likely be a smokescreen and 2 On Guards, which is 4 plus 4 might to them and minus 4 might to us. However, what is the real trade-off in that? Well, this is going to be a 6. We can bolster it to 7 and then give it plus 2 immediately, bringing it to 9. We can reduce the opponent by 1 down to 1, so that would be an 8 might split, which means that the opponent would have to, in one way or another, spend everything in order to guarantee that they win that combat. We are going to do it in that order. So for 4, we're going to play out Tools of the Empire, which comes in ready. This will increase the Repair Specialist up to 7 immediately. We will then tap the Orb of Regret onto the Lonely Porrow, reducing its might down to 1. And then we will be moving in the Repair Specialist as a 7 against the 1. We're not going to use Tools of the Empire because it's a bit overkill. There is no reason actually thinking about it right now why we wouldn't use it. So that's a bit of a misplay. We could have gone up to 9 quite easily, but like I said, they would have to spend quite a bit. In response, firstly, the Jayce is going to pass priority. In response, for 1 rune, they're going to Stupefy, reducing the repair specialist down to 6 and drawing 1. They will draw into a Echo, Time Warp, not an Echo, a Time Warp. And for a 1/6 split, they're going to allow the Lonely Poro to die, drawing an additional card this turn, and the Jayce will score up to 3. Then they will see a Plundering Poro over to the Windswept Hillock, going up to 4 because there is no response from the Jayce, or the Nasus, and make a gold for the Conquer trigger of the Plundering Poro. Assault resolved on this turn, so that's back down to 3 might. Then for 1 energy, 1 power, we'll be playing Sabotage, allowing us to look at the opponent's hand, and we can remove any non-unit card from their hand. There are 3 options available to us. We have Siphoning Strike, which is a very powerful way to immediately kill something. An On Guard, which is a +1 or +2, dependent. And Time Warp, which is a 10 energy, 2 power way for them to have a repeat turn. Now, while it may seem initially the correct choice, this card here is almost a bait card to get rid of, and the actual real choice may be Siphoning Strike in the circumstances. Because while Time Warp is very powerful, they would have to be in a position in which it would be beneficial for them to get rid of it. Such as if they were already at 10 going to 12, they had a strong board presence, but we do see that they've got some very large units, so we're really in a bit of a sticky situation. On Guard, we can probably leave, but the Siphoning Strike dealing 7 damage currently would kill anything of ours. And if we can force them into a combat, we've got to remember we have access to Smokescreen, which would be a really strong recovery spell against the Siphoning Strike, or an on-guard attack. So at the moment, we're thinking we'll get rid of Siphoning Strike, so Siphoning Strike will go to the bottom of the deck. That will resolve, and with that knowledge available to us, we will, for 3, bring out another Repair Specialist, and we will pass. Now you might be initially thinking, why would you do that? We have no runes for Smokescreen. Well, we do, because we have the Plateworm Egg, which gives us 2 energy. So like I said at the very beginning, this is now our guarantee to be able to play Smokescreen. It is the only card we have in hand, which means that we are in a bit of an issue, because we are essentially top decking from now on. Praise be the top deck. But that's okay. As for the Nasus, they don't know what this last card is, and so they've got to play a bit tentatively. Their first thought is the worst case scenario for us is that they can't afford it. We're thinking things such as Shock Blast, which deals 4 damage to a unit, and when it comes to the Plateworm Egg, that's a 2 energy, 1 power, that deals 4 damage, which means that if we were to move in the Nasus and the Scuttle Crab into either of these battlefields, the Nasus would be at threat of dying. And if we were to move the Nasus and the Scuttle Crab to this battlefield, and they do play that, we'd have to play On Guard onto our Nasus to increase it by 1 might to protect it from the death of the Plundering Poro. And with that worst case scenario in mind, not that I can think of any others, we are going to move both these units over to this battlefield and pass priority. It is now going to be the Jayce's turn to respond, in which case they will pay the 2 energy with the Plateworm Egg and recycle 1 gold in order to play Smokescreen targeting the Nasus. The Nasus is now at 2 might, and in response for 1 energy, we will be playing On Guard onto the Nasus, increasing him to 3 might. And that means that the Plundering Poro will die. They will choose to kill the Scuttle Crab, revealing their hand to the opponent, which is nothing. The other part of Scuttle Crab is gain 1 experience, and you can look at cards face down, the opponent's cards face down this turn. To keep things nice and tidy, we will in fact give the Nasus the experience, because I don't know if they want the experience or not. And because of the effect once each turn, when an enemy unit dies here, channel 1 rune exhausted, the Nasus will now channel 1 rune exhausted. For 7 runes up, they will be tapping all of them and recycling 1 blue in order to play a Thousand Tail Watcher to this battlefield. and at the end of the turn the smokescreen and on guard will resolve, meaning that the Nasus is no longer reduced. And the reduction by the Thousand Tail Watcher is also no longer occurring. However, it is worth noting that because this is a 7 energy, we can trigger Nasus, Curator of the Sands, to ready 2 runes and pass. While we know we don't have anything, the opponent doesn't know what this final card is because they only saw the first Thousand Tail Watcher, not the second. So as far as they are aware, this could be a Defy, a Discipline, a Smokescreen, it could be an On Guard, it could be a Stupefy. There are a multitude of green-blue cards that this could be that they do not know the answer to. On the Jayce's side, they draw into Rangar Trophy Hunter, which is a 6 energy, 6 might, sorry, for 5 energy, 1 power. But it is worth noting that it can be played to a battlefield. However, the issue with that is that Tools of the Empire is not at reaction or action speed, it is at slow speed, which means if we were to move the Rangar into this battlefield, it would then have to resolve at its 6 might, killing just the Nasus, and then we would have to follow up with the Jayce or the Repair Specialist to kill the Thousand Tail Watcher. The alternative is if we wanted to keep the Rangar alive. This currently is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on attack, meaning it would kill the Thousand Tail Watcher. If we were to empower the Tools of Empire currently, we could increase this to 11, which means that we'd only need to increase it by 2 more, which we could reduce the one by the Orb of Regret by 1 down to a 12 at this battlefield. And then we can use the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow empowerment, or we can empower it and play it in order to ready back up the Tools of the Empire and the Orb of Regret, increasing this might by 8 on top of the already existing 7, all the way up to 15, and reduce these units by 1 each, so it'd go down to 11. That is exactly what we will see occur with, at first, we will spend 2 energy to empower the Tools of Empire, then we will spend 2 energy to power in order to empower the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow legend. We will then trigger the Tools of the Empire, giving the Repair Specialist +4 this turn. We will then use the Orb of Regret, targeting the Thousand Tail Watcher, going down to 6 this turn. And then we will use the Jayce Defender of Tomorrow power with 1 energy in order to ready those 2 gear back up. Then we will tap that in order to increase the Repair Specialist by another 4, reduce the Orb of Regret on the Thousand Tail Watcher again in order to make it a 5 this turn, so it's now 11. And then the Repair Specialist will move in and gain Assault for the 4 gear we have, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that will mean that we can kill both of these units. There is no response from the Nasus, and they will both die. It is worth noting that once each turn, when an enemy unit dies here, the Nasus, much like a Karthus on death with a Death Knell unit, will witness the death of the unit and therefore will channel 1 rune exhausted. The Repair Specialist will now score a point, and they will have scored a point for the Orn's Forge as well, up to 6. They will bring back the Repair Specialist, and they will pass. The Repair Specialist will go back down to 3 might this turn. We draw into a 3rd Thousand Tail Watcher. Goodness me. Unfortunately, that is the only play we have access to it. So we do have to, for 6, 7, 8, recycle 2, bring out a Thousand Tail Watcher readied. We will exhaust the Curator of the Sands to ready up 2 runes, and we'll move the Thousand Tail Watcher over to this battlefield, killing the Repair Specialist, going up to 4 this turn, and then with 5 runes remaining, we will pass. The Jayce draws into their 2nd Rangar Trophy Hunter, and what we will do is we will tap the Orb of Regret to reduce the Thousand Tail Watcher's might by 1, and then we will use the Plateworm Egg to add 2 energy, then we'll use 1 on the Defender of Tomorrow to ready those 2 back up, then use the Orb of Regret again to reduce the Thousand Tail Watcher's might by 1 again, and then use the other floating energy along with 4 more runes, recycle 1 to play a Rangar Trophy Hunter to this battlefield, killing the Thousand Tail Watcher, scoring up to 7 this turn, and then they will move a Repair Specialist over to this battlefield, scoring to 8, winning the game. Now, that was pretty good. It was, I do think there were a few opportunities for adjustments throughout the game. We'll now head over to the, There we are. We will now head over to the sideboard opportunities. First and foremost, on the Jayce's side, were there any things we didn't see? We didn't see the Hextech formula, we didn't see the Sprite Fountain, we didn't see the Acceleration Gate, the Challenge, the Dredge Up, the Punch First, the Sabotage. Well, we saw one Sabotage, we saw, I don't think, a Stupefy. Didn't see the Irresistible Faith Oak or the Patch Porobot. But we didn't truly need to because we found some really nice cards. Against the Nasus, we saw some very large units that we were still able to overcome because of things such as the Orb of Regret and the Tools of Empire. But they didn't play many spells, so we don't have to worry about Repulse, except for maybe the fact that we did see the Siphoning Strike. The Sabotage, we don't need another one. Don't think we need another Stupefy. They didn't play enough gear. Well, they didn't play any gear to turn to dust. Unyielding Spirit may be good to add in. The units are Aspiring Engineer, allowing us to play gear from trash, but the opponent didn't have any gear kill. But we could imagine they're going to sideboard in maybe something. And the last unit is a Thousand Tail Watcher, but we never had an issue with not having control of the game state. Of the cards we currently have in our deck, I would say that we don't need to worry about... because we'll most likely be going second this turn. Let us drop 2 Plundering Poros because we have access to this Repair Specialist. So that'll be 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units that we kind of want to see in our opening hand. So still enough that we're not too stressed. We will add in 2 Repulse, because I do think that the Repulse will be useful against Siphoning Strike. And an Aspiring Engineer bringing us up to 12 potential units. We could get rid of our Finding Plunder and Poro, or we could actually swap out an Irresistible Faith Oak to bring back in a Plundering Poro, because they do create gold. And so with that is our sideboard, and we will choose the Mystic Vortex for our battlefield this coming game. Over to the Nasus, we have in the sideboard Seals of Focus, a Smokescreen, 2 Thwonks, and a Tomb Raider Barbara. Tomb Raider Barbara is the only form of gear kill in our sideboard. But what units did we not see from the Nasus? Well, we didn't see Valor's Breath, or Charm, or Consult the Past, or Defy, or Discipline. We didn't see the Reinforce, we only saw 1 Siphoning Strike. We didn't see the Blitzcrank, we didn't see the Mel, we didn't see the Steel Paws, we didn't see the Tasty Fae folks, we didn't see... oh no, we did see these ones. So we didn't see a lot of that deck, and a lot of that would have helped, especially things such as the Charm and the Disciplines. The Tomb Raider Barbara will be very nice as a way to kill or disempower guests. We'll bring in 2 of those. We'll get rid of the Time Warp because it did feel a bit more like a bait than anything. And because we will be going first, we want to keep our 2 drops in. But let's reduce by 1,000 Tail Watcher. And we'll see how that goes. And for our second battlefield, because we're going first, we'll play Grove of the God Willow. We will choose to go first, and let us go over to the Mulligan stage, where we'll see in the Nasus's hand, no 2 drops. We'll get rid of 2 Bellows Breaths and mulligan into a 2 drop, thank goodness. On the Jayce's side, no 2 drops. We'll sideboard out the Sabotage. The Dredge Up is a card to play turn 1, so we'll keep that, and we'll hope for a... no. We'll get 1 more draw chance. For 2, we're going to play the Scuttle Crab, play me, draw 1, and move over to the Jayce's turn, and they do not draw into. So we'll now move over to the Spectator screen, and we are for 2, play a Dredge Up, drawing 1 more card, and then for 1, play an Orb of Regret, just to kind of get the gear started. It'll now be the Nasus's turn, in which they will move their Scuttle Crab over to the Grove of the God Willows, scoring 2-1. And then they will pass, because there's nothing they can really do. In their opening hand, 2 Vilemores, a Nasus. I mean, these are some big units. They will obviously trigger the Nasus, but it'll be 2 turns minimum before we can even play these out. It is now the Jayce's turn, and they still struggle to find a unit. I told you they had 9. Where are those 9? For 2, they're going to play Dredge Up from their trash and remove it, drawing an additional card. They see another challenge. Oh my goodness. They will tap 1 to play another Orb of Regret and pass. It is now the Nasus's turn. They score to 2, and they draw an additional card for holding the Grove of the God Willow. There is no reason for them to play the Blitzcrank this turn, so they're not going to. Instead, they're going to tap 5, recycle 1 to play a Nasus Guardian of Knowledge to the Grove of the God Willow. And pass. It is now the Jayce's turn. They do not draw a unit again. This is what you'd definitely call bricking your hand, but to the extreme. This is insane. So for 4, they're going to play a Tools of the Empire. Then for tap 2, recycle 2, they're going to empower their Jayce Defender of Tomorrow, and then they're just going to have to pass. It now goes over to the Nasus, who scores to 3 and draws an additional card for Grove of the God Willow. They draw into a Stupefy and a Charm, which the Charm would be great once the opponent actually puts down a unit. But at this stage, it's pretty not good. My first thought is genuinely using Siphoning Strike on our own Scuttle Crab, because we could then channel 1 rune for this and look at the opponent's hand, allowing us to see kind of how badly they're really not getting what they want, plus an additional rune channel this way, so we'll go up to 9 next turn. We'll go to 9 this turn, and then 11 next turn, which allows us to play out some big units. And using the 4, we'll have 3 remaining, enough for an On Guard and a Stupefy, or a Stupefy into maybe whatever we draw next. We obviously now know it's a Tasty Faithhook. I don't like doing this because it tells me information that I don't want to know, but there is no way to remove that from the spectator's view. Look at this one. So yeah, I think we will do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Siphoning Strike our own Scuttle Crab. Channel 1 Rune Exhausted. Allow us to look at the opponent's hand and make 1 experience. Once again, I don't think we're going to need the experience, but it's important to track. We now see that their opening hand is rubbish. We are going to be worried about these 2 challenges and the smoke screen, but obviously we have some options here. The Nasus witnesses the death of the Scuttle Crab and will channel another Rune Exhausted. And with 3 remaining, we are going to tap 2 to play a Lonely Porrow to the battlefield and move the Nasus back and pass. The Jayce draws another dredge up. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're gonna have to do it. They're gonna have to. I mean, they could at this stage. I think it's worth just playing the Jayce, but I really wanted to make a gold in some way in order to bring up the Tools of the Empire. But I think we're just gonna have to tap 2 to play dredge up, draw 1 into our first unit. Okay, we don't have to then. For 3, we're gonna play a Repair Specialist, and we could now at this point challenge the Lonely Porrow. With the knowledge that if this has a way to get even +1, it kills both and gives the opponent to draw 1, and that's kind of why we won't challenge right now, because there's no value in it. Would rather wait for a smoke screen, or wait for a Primworm egg in order to make it worth. Primworm? Grimworm, whatever it's called. I've already forgotten. They will pass. Painfully pass. It is over to the Nasus, who draws the Tasty Faithhook. This Origins card was phenomenally sought after. At one stage, I believe it was like 17 New Zealand dollars, and you would run 3 of them in most, well, not 3, but you'd run 2 of them in most green decks, because it was just a very large accelerate unit that ramped you, and it was no power, so it was essentially 2. You'd run it in for 7 energy, and you would get 9 energy, or 9 runes total for its ability. If it dies, it dies, because it draws 1 as well, but if it lives, it just becomes a menace. So it was very, very sought after in many ways. Now, it is the Nasus's turn. They will go to 4 and draw 1 for the Grove of the God Willow into a Defy. Very nice. They will then move their Nasus over to the Mystic Vortex. And then for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, recycle 1, they're going to play a Blitzcrank targeting the Repair Specialist. So with the Nasus now the Blitzcrank now targeting the Repair Specialist, we're going to see a sequence of events. Firstly, the Repair Specialist moves in. It becomes the attacker. So it gets 3 might increase up to 6, because obviously there's 3 gear. These are all slow speed, the Jayce can't respond with them, their abilities, but they still nonetheless create the chain. Then for 1, they are going to stupefy and draw 1 into another Scuttlecrab, reducing it down to 5. Now here's an interesting option. They could let this kill the Blitzcrank to get an extra rune channeled, but there's no reason, because they're going to channel up to their max runes next turn anyway, unless they're choosing to burn a rune this turn. There's no reason to play Charm from here, because, well, the Charm moves nothing. There's no enemy unit to target. They're not going to have to worry about Defy, except for on the opponent's turn, and they know that there's 2 challenges and a smokescreen and a repulse. They don't know about the acceleration gate that I remember. So they know there's possibilities of maybe them playing one of those things, but they're more thinking about right now, what is the Jayce going to do as soon as as soon as the move trigger resolves, because currently we're still in the movement or the play of the Blitzcrank. We haven't triggered per se the attack and defender priorities beyond that. So we're going to say no, the showdown will begin, and the Jayce has the opportunity now to play Smokescreen. That is exactly what the Jayce is going to do. They're going to tap to recycle 1, because the Smokescreen is the best thing for them to do in this situation. They're going to Smokescreen the Blitzcrank. They could have done Challenge in order to use the Repair Specialist's current bonus might in order to kill the Lonely Porro over here. And that would have actually been a very fascinating play to have done. But at the same time, they don't know what the opponent has, and they're just kind of trying to stop the Blitzcrank from being put back in the Nasus's hand, because from now on, every time, unless their unit becomes accelerated, the second that they play a unit to their base, it is going to be pulled in by the Blitzcrank into a big battlefield. So they're trying to counter that long-term play. So for tap 1, recycle 1, they're going to defy that, and that will mean that the Smokescreen fizzles. And at this stage now, the Nasus can go, well, if you kill the Blitzcrank, I at least get the channel 1 rune exhausted, and I go up to 12 next turn, which is pretty nice. The Jayce has no more responses, so it is fully over to the Nasus now. And the Nasus is going to decide, no, I do like the Blitzcrank. I'm going to give it on guard, increasing it to 6. It is a tank, so it can't. The Repair Specialist can't go past and kill the Nasus. They must focus on the Blitzcrank. That will resolve, and the Repair Specialist will die. The Blitzcrank will take all the damage, but the combat resolves, healing it back up. The +1 from the on guard will no longer matter, so I'm just going to remove it immediately. Then for 2, we're going to play a Scuttlecrab to draw 1 more card, and we draw into a Discipline. First time we've seen Discipline all game. Now, with 1 rune remaining, we are going to see the Nasus pass and over to the Jayce, and we see, oh, they've actually gotten another unit. Very nice for them. So they're going to tap 3 to play a Repair Specialist. They're going to be mindful of the fact that the Blitzcrank is going to be heading back to the hand of the Nasus if they do not do something now. And so they're going to first tap an Orb of Regret to reduce its might by 1 down to 4. Then they're going to tap the other Orb of Regret, reducing its might down to 3. Then they're going to tap the... Well, they've got 2 options here. They could either empower the Tools of Empire right now in order to give it +4, increasing it up to 7, and guaranteeing that the Blitzcrank does die. Because they've got to be mindful of this extra rune, which means that this might all be for naught, so they actually should keep 4 runes up in case they need to do the second challenge. And so they will begin by... At a 3/3, they're going to just tap the Tools of Empire onto the Repair Specialist going up to 5, then tap to recycle 1 to challenge the Blitzcrank with the Repair Specialist. A lot of lines, let me just... There we go. Blitzcrank and the Repair Specialist. It is going to be a 5/3. At reaction speed, there is nothing the Nasus can do about this because they don't have the runes for it, and as such the Blitzcrank will die. The Nasus will witness the death and therefore channel 1 rune exhausted, and that will resolve with the Repair Specialist taking 1, 2, 3 damage from the Blitzcrank. Then with the last 2, well, they've got 3 runes up. They could actually kill the Lonely Porro with the same trick, and they will do that. Tap 2, recycle 1, challenge. the Repair Specialist to the Lonely Poro. The Lonely Poro will die, drawing 1 card for the Nasus, and the Repair Specialist will take 2 more damage for that, because the Poro had 2 health, and kill the Repair Specialist. While that was, it does seem like an overextended play, it's really stopped the amount of tempo the Nasus currently has, because they got to 5 this turn, not 6, which means that it's giving the Jayce another turn to survive in many ways. However, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and recycle 1 green, they're going to play Tasty Fofake, accelerated to the Grove of the Godwillows, scoring to 6 this turn, and then because they played a unit with an energy cost of no more... Well, actually, sorry, yeah, they have. For 2, for the Nasus, they get 2 back, because this was a 7. They have access to 6 runes remaining, and they are going to, for 1, 2, 3, 4, play out my favourite new card, Barbara. We all love Barbara. They are going to then kill the Tools of the Empire, because they have more than the control of 7 or more gear. It was not empowered, so it is dead. If they had empowered the Tools of the Empire, that would have just disempowered it. So then with 2 runes remaining, they're going to pass. It goes over to the Jayce. Then they are going to tap 2, recycle 1 to bring out a Sprite Fountain. The Sprite Fountain will create a Sprite on its play. Then the Sprite has a lot of work to do. For 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to see the Jayce come out. It's not going to be able to do anything. And unfortunately, I do think it is a lost game to the Jayce, who will be ending this game at 0 points. The only real thing that they could do is they could move the Sprite into this battlefield and reduce the might of the Barbara by 1 or 2 in order to kill the Barbara, but the Tasty Fofok will nonetheless hold, because they will move in. These 2 would be exhausted, the Barbara would die, they would pass over to the Nasus, who would score to 8. The next card was another Sprite Fountain. I just want to know, when was the next big unit? Repair Specialist, sure. Ploro, yep. Superfire, yep. Folk, yep. Tools, Patch, Tools, Specialist, yeah. So we're not... Oh, there's the Rangar. We really needed the Rangar to come out that turn. Anyway, on to the final game between these 2 decks. We will move back over to the sideboard. As for the Jayce, they did not see enough units, and they will be going first this turn, which means we should probably bring it back in the Plundering Poro in place of the... Oh, actually, no, we did see some gear removal, so we'll keep the Aspiring Engineer, but we'll get rid of the Irresistible Faefolk. The fact that the Jayce only has access to 4, 7, 9, 10, 13 units does in fact align with the fact this is a Gearslop deck. But otherwise, that is that. They will choose their final battlefield, which is the Veiled Temple. As for the Nasus, they're feeling pretty confident about that game, and they're going to actually just keep and go to their final battlefield, the Academy. And we will now move over to the spectator screen, and well, actually, I'll do the mulligan very quickly. The Jayce will be going first. Opening hands of both of them are actually pretty good, so we'll be keeping both. It becomes the Jayce's turn, and for 2, they'll be playing out a Patched Porobot, which enters exhausted. They do not control 3 more gear, so it does not draw 1. Over to the Nasus. They will be just tapping 2 to play at a Lonely Poro and passing. It becomes the Jayce's turn, and they are going to move over to the Veiled Temple. When you conquer here, ready a friendly gear. This counts as a gear, so it will be readied. If it's an equipment, you can detach it, but they now score 2-1. They will now move back from that battlefield, and then for 3, 4, they're going to play a Tools of the Empire readied, and pass. It is now the Nasus's turn, in which case they will move their Lonely Poro over to the Academy. Now the Academy says when you hold here, you give your next spell this turn repeat equal to its base cost. So in other words, we could play Stupefy for 1 energy, then repeat it for 1 energy. Or Defy twice for some reason. But we will not do that. Now for 4, we will be playing out... 5 recycle 1, we'll be playing out the Nasus. We aren't going to play Barbara because we couldn't kill the Tools of the Empire this turn. We needed another way to channel more runes. Playing out the Nasus does hurt that tempo, but it's okay. The Nasus will be played to the battlefield and pass. It is now the Jayce's turn. They will choose to... They've got a choice here. They could, if they so were inclined, play the Rengar for 5, recycle 1, and then punch first it, bringing it to 11, and kill 3, or recycle 3 runes this turn, and wipe the board over here, and the Lonely Porro wouldn't die alone, so it wouldn't draw one, and the Nasus would see the death, so it would channel 1 rune exhausted, but it would clear out the board of the opponent, and I think after last game, that is exactly what the Jayce would be willing to do, is play a Rengar, punch first it, increasing it to 11 might, and that would resolve, killing the Lonely Porro, but it wasn't alone, and killing the Nasus, but it would see the death of the Lonely Porro, channel 1 rune exhausted, and the Rengar would heal, and then the Patch Porobot will go over here, score to 3, then be ready to buy the Veil Temple, and move back, and pass. Over to the Nasus, they will be for 7 runes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, for 4, they'll be playing, oh actually they've got a choice here, they could play 4, and with the Barbara kill the Patched Porobot, because it is a gear, or they could kill the Tools of the Empire, or they could for 7 play out a Tasty Fae Folk, getting ready for next turn. Also the Nasus should be at 1 point, sorry. I think for 7 we'll be playing out the Tasty Fae Folk, and with the Curator of Sands we'll be readying up 2 of those runes, and passing. It is now the Jayce's turn. They'll score to 4 with the Rengar. They'll move the Patch Porobot over, score to 5, ready it and bring it back. They'll bring their Rengar back as well. And then they'll be tapping to play a Hextech Formula, which is a gear that enters exhausted that empowers another gear. And then for 2, recycle 2, they will be empowering their Jayce. And passing. Now I was thinking we'll tap the last energy in order to ready both the Hextech Formula and the Patch Porobot. There's no reason to ready the Patch Porobot this turn, but that would allow us to empower the Tools of the Empire. But we don't want to go... We want to have the 1 rune in case of a Repulse or a Stupefy from the opponent. The Nasus's turn will move the Academy, the Tasty Fae Folk into the Academy. Then for 1, 2, 3, 4, they'll be playing out Barbara, who will kill the Tools of the Empire. There is nothing that the opponent can do about that, and so it will die. I mean, they saw the Barbara last game. They probably could have played around it a bit more effectively. However, it's also one of those things where you have 2 other options if the Barbara is going to be played to get removed. And the Tools of the Empire currently has done nothing this game. It will do things later, but it hasn't done anything just yet. For 4 remaining runes, they're going to tap 1 in order to stupefy the... They could do the Rengar in order to reduce it to 5, and hope for another way to reduce it even further, or they can just do the Patch Porobot and then Bellows Breath killing it. And I think that's exactly what they'll do. They'll do it to the Patch Porobot, draw 1. They will see it was a White Flame Protector, so they made the right call. And then for 1 rune, recycle 1, a Bellows Breath targeting the Patch Porobot. And then for 1 rune, recycle 1, the Repulse will come out. Oh, no, because not a battlefield, so it will not in fact do that. The Patch Porobot will die, and that will resolve. And with 3 runes remaining, the Nasus will pass. It now is the Jayce's turn. They see that this is a 6 to a 6. So they're going to open with a Stupefy targeting the Patch Porobot. I mean the Tasty Fae Folk. And then for 1, recycle 1, that will be defied. Meaning that it is not reduced and the Jayce does not draw 1. The draw hurts more than anything, really. they see the points differential and go, well, it doesn't really hurt, so we're going to tap 2 to bring up a Plundering Poro. And we're going to move our Rangar over to this battlefield, scoring to 6. There's nothing to empower, so we don't need to worry about using the Hextech formula, which means we don't get a trigger from this, and therefore we will pass. So it's now over to the Nasus, who scores to 3. Because they held this turn, the next spell they play can have a repeat effect of it. For 1, 2, 3, 4, they will be playing out another Barbara, killing the Hextech formula, which will resolve. And they will pass. Yeah, they'll pass. They don't see anything else they can really do. If they were tempted, they could have played the White Frame Protector, increasing this to 12 and running it into the Rengar, but they're not too worried. The Rengar will score to 7 this turn. Which is actually a big threat that the Nasus should have realized. Is technically this is match point for the Jayce, and so if they have a way to kill this tasty Fey Folk, they're in trouble. For 2 recycle 1, they'll be playing out a Sprite Fountain. It will make a Sprite at this battlefield. Then for 3 recycle 1, they'll be playing an Aspiring Engineer, allowing them to return return a trash from trash to hand. They're going to return the Tools of the Empire. They cannot afford to play the Tools of the Empire just yet. As such, they will move a Sprite over to this battlefield, and they will pass. Why did they not remove themselves from this battlefield and go for a double conquer next turn? Well, it's because they're not thinking. I should really have done that. But also, they are aware that the Nasus must answer this with whatever they have access to. They will begin by tapping 7, recycling 1 to play at a Thousand Tail Watcher, reducing the Sprite to 1, and the Rengar to 3, the Plundering Poro to 1, and the Aspiring Engineer to 1. Then they will move a Barbara. Oh no, they won't move a Barbara. They will first get the trigger of the Curator of Sands, going up to 6. Then they will tap this and repeat it. And because they could effectively have repeated it, but it's already got a repeat, and its repeat is already the cost of the spell. But if the repeat was something like 2 energy, 1 power, they could substitute it with the cost of the Academy, and they will target this, this, and this. Unfortunately, because the repulse requires it to have targeted no one else, the Sprite will die, the Plundering Poro will die, and the Aspiring Engineer will die. Then they will move a Barbara over to this battlefield, and that will kill the Rengar, bringing the Nasus up to 5 this turn. They will move the other Barbara over to join the Tasty Fey Folk, and then with 4 runes up, they pass. It is now the Jayce's turn. They were going to begin by tapping 1 to bring out an Orb of Regret. The Sprite is played for the Sprite Fountain's temporary disappearing. And they're going to tap 1 in order to reduce the Barbara by 1, 2, 3, and move the Sprite over, killing both units. The Defy cannot work against the Orb of Regret because it needs to be a spell. If it was a not so fast, different story. But the Jayce will now pass. The Nasus will score to 6, move over to the Veil Temple, scoring to 7. Then they will, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, recycle 1, play at another Thousand Tail Watcher this battlefield, and ready up to passing. It is now the Jayce's turn, and this is unfortunately match point. If we had gone a bit further back to the turn of the Rengar, and they had moved the Rengar back to the battlefield, and not moved the Sprite into the battlefield alongside it, the only difference that would have occurred is that they would not have had to repeat the trigger of the Bellows Breath to kill the Sprite, to kill the kill the Plundering Poro, and, well, what was the last one? Aspiring Engineer, sorry. Yeah. They would have just used 1 trigger to kill those 3, and then be able to move in the Barbara for free over to this battlefield, moved in Barbara over to this battlefield, meaning this is a 10, this is a 4. They would have played a Thousand Tail Watcher to this battlefield, meaning the Rengar would have had to have gotten over one of those battlefields somehow. Really, unfortunately for the Jayce in that circumstance, there were very few things they could do. Their next card being Acceleration Gate doesn't help. They were really after, I mean, a challenge would have helped, but of all of these cards, if we draw 10, they needed more units. I see what the Jayce is going here for. This feels like the wrong Jayce for this kind of deck, however. If they had gone for the other Jayce, the one that when you play me, or at the start, or every second card you play, you can ready a gear, or ready something that isn't me, this would have felt so much better. That would be point one I would make. If I actually jump over to Piltover Archive very quickly, and I select Jayce in particular, so if we move over to scene 2, so if I move over to Jayce, this is it here, Gearslop Jayce, very popular. You've got a roar, you've got a roar, you've got a roar, you've got all the Jayces geared up, that's illegal. Let me guess, it's using a battlefield it really shouldn't be using. Yep, Aspirant's Climb, but this is the one I'm thinking of. Brilliant Inventor. When you play me, or the first time you play a non-token gear each turn, you may ready something besides me. Exhausted. The lack of questionable tomes is quite painful as well, because it really limits how much draw the Jayce has access to. This deck in particular, however, is a Heimerdinger deck, and I'm not giving grief to Heimerdinger, but I think that he's a bit of a poor choice currently in the meta, because we haven't figured out what it looks like yet. Jayce is strong, very, very new, 13 days ago. Much more exciting, actually. Gangplank, Lucians, Drop Waters, the orange Jayce, which allows you to choose at the beginning when he becomes ready, whether he has Assault, Deflect, or Ganking. This is kind of fascinating. This is something I'd be very interested in seeing where it goes, if not playing it myself. Over to the Nasus now. If we look at the available cards from the Nasus's side of things, draw all 27 of them. They have access to the Vile Maws, massive units. They have Siphoning Strikes, they have Mel, Console the Past, they have Steel Paws, they have the Charms, the Blitzcrank. The Blitzcrank was actually very good. They only run one of them. In a deck such as this, I may even consider running two. One in main, one in sideboard, because it can really disrupt the flow. Nasus follows the same archetype as Ornn and Ari, being in blue-green, but he does it differently, where he cares more about the larger, less than he does care about the quick plays, their reactive plays. As such, I do think Defy is the right choice over Not So Fast. I think that Siphoning Strike maybe being reduced by down to 2 would be very good. 3, having multiple in hand is nice, but having 3 in hand may feel a bit awkward. As such, not too intrigued by a third. Scuttlecrab, very interesting choice. It's tempo, draw 1 for a unit. Same thing with Tasty Feyfolk. It's the draw 1, channel 2. It's a 7 unit, so it triggers the Nasus. On first instance, I didn't really think about Tasty Feyfolk for the Nasus, but it does make sense. They utilize his empowerment, his legend ability through, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards out of 40. That's a pretty decent ratio. Having the green Nasus as well as a unit in hand rather than a unit on the sideboard means that obviously this seemed like a weak option, but as I was playing it, I was realizing no, this is actually kind of strong. It's I see what it's going for here. I would almost say that the Lonely Poro is, while it is powerful, I would probably swap it out for the Stalwart Poro, because the Death Knell requires us to essentially not play in tune with the Nasus. I'd even consider having a few more tank units to utilize the availability, the fact that this is a 6 might, which does not leave it very susceptible, but nonetheless people will run in and focus it. Having things such as Solari Shield Bearer instead, which even though it's a 3, it's still a strong 3, would be a very fascinating alternative, and I would consider dropping some cards in place of it. But nonetheless, this was a truly very fascinating, hopefully entertaining example of how the game is played. We were able to crush all 3 games in just under an hour, which is pretty on tempo. We did see, unfortunately, for the Jayce, we saw a very miserable game 2, but for us, thankfully, we got to see it go to a game 3. I always like games going to a game 3 because it not only pushes the game to a point in which both people are really fighting with their last breath, they know everything about the opponent, they are just fighting with pure knowledge and assumption, while in games 1 and games 2, you're really organising yourself around, okay, they may be playing this legend, but what is the deck? And then in game 2, they're going, oh, they may have had this as a strong game 1, but what did they bring in to counter me? What am I going to see that is going to make my game 2 hellish? And then in game 3, sometimes you get that as well, but it's a lot less impactful, or it's a lot less noticeable. But anyway, I hope that has been interesting to you guys. I will, as usual, be leaving these decks in the description. If you have any that you would like me to review or play, please do let me know. I have not forgotten about Banish Mel. I'm actually going to be taking it to Nexus Night tomorrow, and I will be giving an update as well as a reflection on real play with it later on then. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.